The fact is that we are on the brink of witnessing yet another disastrous Labour deal, because we know that when Labour negotiates, Britain loses. And to leave the House in no doubt, if and when my party is back in power, we will reverse any handover of power, any imposition of EU law, any new rights for the ECJ, and any new budgetary commitments. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's my party that took the country out of the EU, and it's my party that will keep it out.
That promise has lasted about as long as his commitment to protect pensioners' winter fuel allowance. He said whatever was needed to win power, Mr. Speaker, and now he'll say whatever is needed to keep it, even if it means selling out our sovereignty, our businesses and the public. The truth is, the defence commitments in this deal are hopelessly one-sided. We're making payments, but they are offering dialogue and consultation. This is a pitiful return for the country that leads NATO in Europe with troops on the ground in Estonia defending our allies. Can the Prime Minister tell us why there's not a single word in his statement about the money we will now be sending to Brussels? And can he set out how much those payments will cost taxpayers? Mr. Speaker, in government, details matter, and so does honesty. They're laughing, but this is a bad deal for the country. Look at them. This is how they laughed at the budget. They have no idea what it is they signed up to. He said he would stay out of the single market. He's going into the single market for agri-food, electricity and energy. He said he'd stay out of the customs union, but he is accepting EU tariff rules. How does he plan to stop the EU changing them to our disadvantage? He has no idea, neither do any of them. Because the British people know, Mr. Speaker, when they are being misled. They know that headlines fail. He didn't listen to the CBI on the jobs tax. He didn't listen to the FSB on the family farms tax. This deal has already unravelled. The damage is becoming clear. The political consequences will be huge. And here he is, trumpeting his success. And when he stands up in a moment, he'll deflect, he'll dismiss, he'll distract. But we all know the truth. This was a fiction of a speech, a fraud of a deal, a failure of a Prime Minister.
Keir Starmer is now facing the fiercest political backlash of his career. Just hours after announcing what he framed as a breakthrough in restoring UK-EU relations, the whole plan collapsed under pressure. Instead of applause, he got outrage. Parliament erupted. What was supposed to be a diplomatic win has been slammed as a betrayal of Brexit. Tone-deaf, reckless and politically explosive. The fallout is growing fast and it's now threatening to blow a hole straight through his leadership.
Mr. Speaker, when Labour negotiates, Britain loses. He talks about a hat-trick of deals. They are own goals. In 2020, the Conservatives concluded the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the largest and most comprehensive free trade agreement in the world. We agreed to come back in 5 years to improve terms. This renegotiation should have been an opportunity to improve terms for our country. The terms are improved for the EU. And the Prime Minister can dress it up as much as he wants, but he has failed. It is bad for bills, it is bad for jobs, and it is bad for borders. This is not a deal made for Britain. This is a deal made for Labour's PR, to show them on the world stage. But it is a stitch-up for our country for their short-term headlines. Let's take the Prime Minister's abject failures one by one. First, on fishing. He has given away the prize most desired by EU member states and done so for almost nothing. Mr. Speaker, it is very easy to sign deals if you're prepared to give everything away for pennies. This deal locks out our fishermen until 2038. We are now in a worse position than the Faroe Islands, a set of islands with a population of Scarborough, but who get to have annual negotiations. And the Prime Minister quoted some organisations welcoming his deal. He doesn't listen to them normally, but he left one out deliberately. The National Federation of Fishermen's Organisations, who have described the deal as a surrender and a giveaway. This is a Prime Minister who would pay to give away his family silver. Why is the Prime Minister selling our fishermen down the river? Is it because they don't vote Labour? Second.
And the backlash isn't just coming from across the aisle. Starmer's own party is turning on him. What began as quiet frustration has erupted into open revolt. Loyal allies are disappearing, backbenchers are publicly breaking ranks, and for the first time in years, MPs from every corner of Parliament are rallying behind a no-confident motion that's gaining momentum fast. At the centre of the storm is one word: betrayal. Starmer once vowed to honour the Brexit vote. Now his critics are calling him the man undoing it. They say he isn't defending British sovereignty, he's chipping away at it, quietly reopening the EU door that voters slammed shut in 2016. This isn't a debate over policy. It's a full-blown political war. And with this move, Starmer may have just declared it on the very legacy he promised to protect.
To overrule our courts, surrendering our judicial sovereignty.
No, I mean, that's just wrong under the agreement. There's an independent arbitration. It's the same. It's the same as the Windsor framework, which you negotiated. It is an important point. It's an independent arbitration process. There's a same process.
The outrage reached boiling point when the fine print of Starmer's so-called breakthrough surfaced, exposing a buried clause that hands EU fishing fleets extended access to British waters until 2038. This wasn't a temporary concession. It was 12 more years of foreign trawlers sweeping UK seas, while coastal towns already on the edge are left with empty harbours and shattered trust. But this anger isn't just about lost profits. It runs deeper. For many, this was never just about fish. It was about control. The Brexit vote was a rejection of lopsided deals like this. Fishing communities were promised sovereignty. They were promised a voice. Instead, they got another round of EU dominance, disguised as diplomacy. Places like Grimsby and Fraserburgh aren't debating policy points. They're fighting for survival. To them, this deal doesn't feel like strategy. It feels like surrender. And once again, the narrative is painfully familiar. Brussels gets what it wants, and Britain picks up the pieces.
The Prime Minister is right that our food standards are already in alignment with those of the EU. Why could we not have negotiated the deal on the basis of mutual recognition of those standards, as other countries have done, rather than open ourselves up to having to alter our standards in line with whatever the EU may decide to change in the future?
That's a very good question he should put to Boris Johnson.
To critics, this deal isn't a strategic move, it's surrender. Analysts warn it guts the UK's bargaining power in future negotiations, locking the country into a position of weakness for more than a decade. The symbolism is just as damaging. Granting EU trawlers extended access so soon after Brexit sends one message loud and clear. Starmer isn't defending British sovereignty, he's aligning with Brussels. And before the backlash over fishing had even settled, another political flashpoint erupted. Starmer quietly greenlit a youth mobility scheme allowing EU citizens aged 18 to 30 to live and work in the UK for up to 3 years. Officially, it's pitched as a cultural exchange, but critics aren't buying it. Beneath the branding, they see a return to free movement. Without saying the words, the scheme has no cap, no hard restrictions, no serious enforcement. Just a wide-open path that looks, to millions, like a direct breach of the Brexit mandate. For voters who backed Leave to reclaim border control, this doesn't look like reform. It looks like betrayal dressed as policy. For Brexit voters, this felt like the ultimate betrayal. Not just a line crossed, but stomped on. Immigration control wasn't a footnote in 2016. It was the core of the vote. And now, with the youth mobility scheme wide open, that foundation is cracking under pressure. Inside Labour HQ, alarm bells are blaring. Senior members fear Starmer hasn't just reignited the Brexit culture war, he's poured gasoline on it. And in doing so, he may have handed Reform UK its biggest political opening yet. The red wall voters Labour desperately needs are already slipping away. into the hands of the one man whose entire platform was built on protecting Brexit at all costs, Nigel Farage. And Farage wasted no time. While Labour scrambled to defend the deals, Farage blitzed the media. Interviews, podcasts, TikToks that exploded overnight. His message was sharp and simple. Starmer is dismantling Brexit piece by piece, using loopholes and backdoors to undo what millions voted for. This isn't policy debate anymore. It's political trench warfare. Farage frames Starmer as a Brussels yes man, shaking hands with diplomats while ignoring fishermen in Whitby and laid-off workers in Stoke. That contrast is cutting deep. Reform UK's online reach is exploding, fueled not by pensioners but by younger disillusioned voters who believe Farage is the only one still defending the Brexit they were promised. The optics couldn't be worse for Starmer. He's being branded as the face of globalism, smiling for cameras in Brussels while trust back home disintegrates. In a climate of voter fatigue and post-Brexit frustration, every handshake with EU leaders hands Farage fresh ammunition. Labour insists it's economic pragmatism, but Farage's message is landing louder. This is surrender, plain and simple. The deeper analysts dig into Starmer's so-called reset, the more it resembles a full-scale reversal. This isn't a policy fine-tuned, it's a hard pivot back toward the institutions Brexit aimed to break away from. The deal drags British farming back under EU food and animal welfare rules, effectively placing UK agriculture in Brussels' orbit once again. It also opens legal back channels where the European Court of Justice could regain influence, crossing a line many Leave voters believed had been closed for good. Then there's the defence clause. Tucked away in the fine print is a roadmap for closer military coordination with EU structures. Early-stage joint planning and strategic alignment. To some, it reads like the first draft of a future European army. None of this is cosmetic. These aren't small side deals. They represent a structural shift, a quiet but decisive step back toward the very power centres millions thought they had walked away from. Supporters say these deals will streamline trade and fix regulatory chaos, but critics see a deeper threat, a quiet slide back into the entanglements Brexit was meant to end. They warn this sets a dangerous precedent, sweeping agreements signed behind closed doors without a single vote cast, trading sovereignty for short-term political convenience. Now the backlash has gone from loud to seismic. Tory MPs are openly talking no confidence. Reform UK is demanding an emergency general election. But the real panic is unfolding inside Labour itself. Starmer's inner circle can see the ground shifting. Long-time loyalists are hesitating. The cracks are spreading fast. What started as private discomfort is morphing into organised resistance. Whispers have turned into backroom strategy meetings. Quiet alliances are forming. And inside Labour HQ, one fear is dominating every conversation. Sticking with Starmer could cost them everything, especially in the Brexit strongholds they once promised to reclaim. The silence says it all. Some MPs have vanished from interviews. Others are subtly walking back their support. Behind closed doors, many are calling the EU deal political suicide. And with Reform UK surging, the alarm bells aren't just ringing, they're screaming. Behind closed doors, Starmer is furious. Sources say he's accused internal critics of betrayal and even threatened deselection. But the damage is already done. What was pitched as bold leadership is now seen, even by Labour MPs, as a disastrous misstep. The plan was to quietly roll out the deal, wrap it in jargon and perks, and hope no one noticed the compromises. Instead, it blew up. The backlash didn't fade. It became the story, and voters are watching closely. In places like Hull, Plymouth and Redcar, anger is raw. This doesn't feel like policy, it feels personal. Protests are brewing, petitions are spreading, local councils are under pressure. Labour's comms team is trying to reframe the deal as a modern Brexit. But Leave voters aren't buying it. This isn't about border queues, it's about sovereignty. The promise of 2016 feels like it's being erased behind closed doors. Across the country, one word keeps coming up: betrayal. And the fallout is growing. Reform UK is climbing in the polls. Starmer's approval is slipping, and once safe red wall seats are back on the edge. This goes beyond a political blunder. It's a slow-burning constitutional crisis, one that reopens deep questions about trust, democracy and identity. By tying the UK back into EU frameworks on trade, law, defence and migration, Starmer has revived the very battles Brexit was meant to end. Now, with a no-confidence vote looming, his leadership is hanging by a thread. This isn't political theatre, it's a turning point, one that could fracture Labour, shake Parliament and reshape Britain's future with Europe. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching.